All of the members of the public who are here, thank you for coming along today. To the members of the media, good to see you. And to our staff, Stephen, all the team, wish to acknowledge you. And thank you for your hard work to allow us to get to this point. We have two items in the agenda today. Ironically, both very important for how Auckland goes forward. One, a discussion relating to the unitary plan, and the other, a report and reflections on the City Rail link. I would say that 99% of you here and downstairs would have been supportive of the City Rail link, but you're most interested in listening to our discussion on the unitary plan. So, okay, and so what we are going to do for a start is I will move a resolution that we hear the matter of the unitary plan first.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second that. Thank you very much, Councillor Linda. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Second's passed. That's good. Lots of support from the gallery. Okay, now gallery, members of the public and community. I've called this meeting as an extraordinary meeting because the continuing discussion issues relating to the unitary plan are front of mind, not just around this table and our organisation, but of course in the community. And they will continue to be so until such time as we pass that document in August. And so what I wanted to do as a consequence of some of the discussion and certainly the views around the table here today and over the last few weeks, and in fact 2 or 3 months, is actually move this matter to a matter of extraordinary business. And we do so to deal with one issue only, and that is the issue of Council's evidence in support of a position to the unitary plan. Now, I want to put this matter in order by moving a resolution in the paper, and it'll be moved in the name of Councillor Penny Hulse and Councillor Alf, so that we can actually put the matter in order. Now, to address the second issue, and that is the issue of an existing recommendation or recommendations that were given to me by way of a notice of motion, that matter will be debated at the same time. And so to clear any issues of uncertainty about the way forward in this meeting, the recommendation on the paper will be put. If lost, the recommendation from Councillor Quacks will be put and voted on. So, councillors, I want to talk about the procedure of this meeting, and so that the whole of the community who are here and present are aware of how we will proceed forward. Firstly, I just want to make a couple of comments. No, I'll just clarify the process. We're going to hear from the officers first. I want to hear from the officers first because with so many of the community here and hopefully watching on TV, and good afternoon to you all, it is critical that the people understand the context against which this debate has been had. There has been some interesting reflections in the media over recent times, and I want us to start with a very clear assessment of exactly what it is that we are discussing. So here we have got John Duguid, Penny Perrott and James, and I want to acknowledge each of you. And so they're going to start by one just sort of giving an assessment of where we're at. I'm going to ask them some simple questions because to presume the community's knowledge in this against the backdrop of all sorts of comment would be asking a bit much. So these are our experts, and from them I want to hear for a start so we can put this discussion in context. Secondly, we're going to hear from the submitters. All right, now I made 2 commitments to a number in this chamber last week in terms of how we would go. The first was that we would consider the matter that they wanted to put to us, and that is that we would revoke our evidence. The second matter that I have agreed to, and of course we're going to, is that this would be very much a public extraordinary meeting, and we wanted the community's input and to hear from the various sides of the discussion. Now, we Aucklanders, we like to have a good bun fight. There's no doubt about the fact that the history is riven with a tradition of great debate, and often, unfortunately, has meant we haven't made as much progress as we should have. Now, that aside, we will hear today 4 people generally opposed to whether or not we should support our evidence, and 4 for. And I think that's a way of getting a bit of balance into the discussion, just hearing generally, because sometimes you only hear those that are most capable of advocating themselves in the community, and you don't hear from those who often won't. And so we're going to try and get a little bit of balance today to get things off. Then we're going to hear from local boards, some who have got a view that we should just not present and support our evidence, and others who think that we should. All right, so that will then give an opening opportunity for myself as the leader of the chamber to start the debate. I'm then going to ask, out of respect, for those that have led through in this council chamber the work over years. Just remember, thus far this has been a 4.5-year program. It's been long and fairly intense, as you might imagine. So I'm going to ask Councillor Penny to speak, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Alf. Now, Councillor Penny chairs the Auckland Development Committee and has had overarching chair control of this really right from the early days of the draft unitary plan. And then Councillor Alf, who specifically chairs the unitary plan, has been dealing with these issues of how we deal with submissions and evidence in particular. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Penny. Evidence to our independent hearings panel. Before I ask the officers, I'm just going to clear 1 or 2 things and sort of give you my view as to how we should best transact business today, councillors. The first is this will be a long meeting. It will be long. Now, members of the public, we've got it here for 4 hours. One of those meetings where we'll be here till the cows come home. And so I know some of you are standing, and you will get the opportunity in particular of hearing the community, and then maybe you won't stay much longer, but this will be long. Councillors and members of the public, you need to know this. We have something called a procedural motion which you can put to stop the debate. And I will not be supporting any of those today at all. And I generally speaking do, actually, because sometimes we just debate till we shouldn't. But I want this to be a full debate. I want to hear everyone. And so you might want to put a procedural motion to stop this debate. If it's in your mind, I tell you I will not support it, and I'll be encouraging people not to. I think this is that special and an important discussion, and that's why so many people turn up here today. They actually want to hear the whole side of it. In many ways, it sort of dovetails into the discussion that we will have in July and August to finalise the unitary plan. Secondly, this is not about whether you support the unitary plan or not. This is actually about a process issue. It's about whether or not we will support evidence going in that we've put up before the independent hearings panel, an independent panel appointed by government and us, and now presently in the process of hearing all the submissions on the unitary plan. Secondly, it's not also about whether we're going to change the unitary plan, the draft unitary plan. This is about evidence. It is not about the change in the plan. We don't actually have authority to do that at this point in time. It sits with the independent hearings panel, set up by special legislation between the government and ourselves to independently hear the views of the community and ourselves as separate submitters on all your behalf through the council. So we are not changing the unitary plan in anything that we do today. Thirdly, the Independent Hearings Panel have got the power. And they have the power, and Judge David Kirkpatrick has been giving very clear directions to us all about what they are doing with that power and how they want to deal with the matter of natural justice, and I know it's forefront in the minds of many of you who are here. And they want to hear from as many Aucklanders as possible before they make their recommendations to us, but they do not decide the issue of the unitary plan. Around this table, we do. We decide that issue. We have final decision. We started it, and we will finish it. And so what we are presently doing is we are statutory decision makers in waiting. We are in waiting. We are not doing it today. We are in waiting. And so to the members of the community who are here and those who are watching, you need to know that we received very clear advice. Our evidence is presently of equal weight to anyone else's. Now, you can take that as you like, but that's the way the Independent Hearings Panel absolutely looks at it. It's the same as everyone else's. And so when they come back to us with recommendations, we have 20 days in the statute to sign off the unitary plan. 20 days of consideration. Sitting around here for 20 days making a decision. And it'll be long, it'll be an intense debate. We will go through all of the recommendations. We may agree some of them and not others, and make changes, as we did with the draft unitary plan after long discussions with you. But in that process, there will be no public input. It is set in statutory concrete, and we will decide as a chamber at that time. That's our time to debate the unitary plan in all of its detail. I want to lastly just say that there are cameras here today recording us. We have a partner in this. Some of us less aligned to the partner, others are more so. Some would like us not to be there at all. We have a partner called the government. The government are strongly supportive of this process, and we are arm in arm with them to deliver the unitary plan. We have a statutory obligation. There's been some talk, and I want to deal with this up front too, some talk about the fact that it could be handed over to the new council and the new mayor. Well, poor them. They would want this like a hole in the head. There is a statutory obligation that we have to conclude, and we will. I will be doing my level best to ensure that we are able to conclude that against all of the work that we will need to do and the detail that we'll need to go through. So the government obviously is clearly interested in this process and in how we go through this process. And so we're mindful of their continuing support and the need for us to hold their confidence. So there's just some opening thoughts, councillors, and to those who are here and who are watching. And now I want to allow Penny and John and James the opportunity of just sort of praising where we're at, and then I've got 2 or 3 questions that I'm sure the councillors will have 2 or 3 questions themselves before we get the submitters up. Now, I recognise, councillors, the concern that we not hold the public submitters too long here, but I want these guys to speak so the submitters and all the community here have a chance to hear the advice that we've been getting for 4.5 years and how much expertise they have in this area. So, Penny, is it you or John is going to start? Penny, right. Penny Parrott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to remind the council and the public behind me about the process that we've been following to develop the unitary plan. As the Mayor has alluded to in his comments, this unitary plan has been following a process set out in special legislation. It is not following the usual process that happens under the Resource Management Act when you do a whole-scale review of a district plan or a regional plan. So that special legislation has set up certain timeframes within which we must deliver a decision on this plan, but the key difference is it's set up an independent hearings panel. That panel is chaired by an Environment Court judge whose name is Judge David Kirkpatrick, and there is a team of 6 on that panel. That panel has recently been expanded to include 3 other members, and that's specifically designed to deal with the submissions and the process of considering the people's submissions on the zoning and precincts. In terms of the role of the panel, and it is set out on page 76 of your agenda, they have been given quite wide powers to set the direction of the hearings and the process that they want to follow as they hear from all of the submitters on the proposed unitary plan. And that process has involved a range of opportunities for pre-hearing meetings, mediation, hearings, and also the opportunity for various submitters to meet with panel members and staff to discuss their individual issues.